Hey guys, it's Shelby coming at you after real life hit me pretty hard. I am going to be doing a Q&A today because I got home from the holidays a couple days later than I had expected to because my dad had to go to the emergency room, which I posted about on the community tab here, and thank you guys all who sent well wishes for him and me. I wanted to update you on that before we get started with the Q&A because if you were wondering, I don't want to leave you in the dark. Basically, my dad has been experiencing a lot of health issues recently. I don't need to go into his medical history, but my dad is older. I think my dad was 40 years old when my sister was born, so he's, older in age, and honestly, he's not the kind of man who takes good care of himself. He's very stubborn, and he likes a lot of processed sugar despite the fact that he is a diabetic. So yeah, he was basically experiencing chest pains on New Year's night, New Year's Eve, I guess, and then woke up New Year's Day and was like my chest hurts, we need to go to the emergency room. So that's where I spent the first day of the year, and then I stayed a couple days after that because they held him overnight on New Year's Day. And then he got out on the 2nd, and then we left on the 3rd. But I did plan to come back on the 1st, so it completely threw off my upload schedule and my work schedule, and also just mentally not the best start to the new year for me. Yeah, I apologize for being absent, but that's where I was and what was going on. And everybody's entitled to take time off of work per se when family things happen, but I feel very guilty about it because I feel like you guys are expecting me to be here and then I don't show up, and that makes me feel crappy. But you can't plan for these sort of things, and in relation to that, I don't really have time to get something done before Wednesday other than just me sitting down and talking, not a lot of editing, and just answering some questions you guys have had, because there's a few of them that a lot of you have been asking me for a long time that I just haven't had a chance to sit down and explain. So we're gonna get into all of it. Excited to be back, excited for the new year. Thank you for being here, and let's just get into it. First things first, why we chose not to live in a tiny house, not to buy a tiny house, and we bought this house instead. Well, first things first, the answer to that question is because I didn't buy this house on my own. I get questions all the time about how do you live with a significant other if they don't care about the environment? How do you live with roommates or your parents if they don't care about the environment? And you guys, the answer to why I didn't buy a tiny house or a more sustainable house ties into that answer as well. So I'm gonna try to mesh those two together so that you understand that my life is not perfect. Everyone in my life does not participate in what I do or care about what I do or live the way I live. So we bought this house because honestly, there's a lot of reasons why, but the first reason why is that Madison is really interested in building wealth. She grew up in a very different way than I did. I grew up I wouldn't say well off, but I never really struggled. I didn't have financial struggles, at least. There were a lot of other things happened in my house, but finances, we were okay. Madison didn't have the same upbringing. And for those of you who don't know, Madison is my partner. We've been together for almost 6 years. We've been engaged for 2 years. A lot of people didn't know that when I mentioned it in my last video. Yeah, we're getting married this year. Anyway, so she is very interested in building wealth and creating a very secure net so that she never feels financially insecure ever again. And when we went to buy a house, the reason we didn't buy a tiny house or a more sustainable house was firstly for financial reasons. So banks will not lend you money, or at least in the research we did in the bank we got our loan from for the mortgage, will not loan you money for a tiny house. That's a huge upfront financial investment and not something that we were going to be able to do for a very long time. And like I said, Madison is very interested in wealth building and wanted us to get into the real estate market as early as we could. And basically also, there's no long-term research to show how tiny houses either appreciate or depreciate. So that's one part of the financial reason why. Another part of the reason we actually bought this house is to, in the future, make it a rental property, an income producing property. And even right now, it is an income producing property technically because my sister lives here and she pays rent. So that's also another reason we didn't move into a tiny house, because we don't plan to live in a purely single family home until we personally have kids, if that ever happens, we do plan to rent out at least one room in any property that we live on while we live there. So it's not a purely single family home, it's also providing an income for us, which makes sense for Madison financially, and also ends up being more sustainable in some ways because it's not just a purely single family home with 2 people living in a 1,600 square foot house. So I really thought that was an interesting topic to cover in today's video because it's a question I get all the time. Why do you live in such a big house? Why do you live in a single family home? Why don't you live in a more sustainable tiny house? Like all those things. And that's also an answer for so many of you who ask me how to deal with your partners or your families or whatever it is that don't live the way you do. You guys, Madison is good at kind of like participating in what I bring into the home as far as sustainability goes, but she's not like super gung-ho about it, despite the fact that we met in college where we were both environmental science majors. Living sustainably in your personal life is different than doing it as a profession. Yeah, I don't live in a perfect world where like my sister is my tenant or like my roommate right now, and she doesn't do a lot of things sustainably, and neither do my parents. My parents never did, including when I lived there. I just did the best I could until I left. And even now there are a lot of compromises that I make with Madison, with our relationship in terms of sustainability, and buying this house was definitely one of them. But by no means am I like, I didn't want this house, I wanted a more sustainable house. I'm really upset that we bought this house for financial reasons. There are also sustainability reasons, like building a new tiny house with new materials, as sustainable as they can be, is still not the same as just buying a house that was already existing, which is what we did with this one. And although I think buying secondhand like properties are a little bit different than buying like secondhand furniture and making it sustainable, it's still a sustainable choice. We did not build this house. There were no new resources that were needed to build said house. So yeah, that's why we don't live in a tiny house or any other living situation for that matter. And one of my other favorite questions, do you guys think that you're going to put solar panels on your house? As if that is the most casual thing to ask ever. If you guys don't know, solar panels are a huge investment, anywhere from like $14,000 to $30,000. If this was going to be for sure our forever home, I would not really have a problem making that sort of investment, nor would Madison, since you guys just heard about how frugal she is. She would also be willing to do it because in the long term it saves money. But when you have a house that you are not sure you're going to own forever, and we are very confident that we will not live here forever, that we will likely turn this into a rental property in the near future, it doesn't make sense for us to pay to put solar panels on the house right now. I do offset all of our carbon emissions, so I'm not just like, well, we're just gonna keep using electricity because it's too expensive otherwise. I totally understand needing to transform the grid and being a participant in that, but I can't make that financial investment on my own, and I can't do that when it doesn't make financial sense and I have a partner who really cares about things that make financial sense. So in short, is my long-term plan to have solar panels on our long-term home? Yes. Will we have them on this home? Probably not. And also, will I show you the process of installing them one day when we do have them? Yes. Please rest assured, any big projects that are done to this house to make it more sustainable, you will see them, as I did with my rain barrel installation. If you didn't see that, I will link it here. I hope that clears things up for those of you that were very curious about that. Something else many of you are curious about are my plants in general. You want to know more about them, how many I have. A lot of people want a plant tour. I understand, and I promise that that is coming. But a question you guys ask a lot is how I deal with having so many houseplants as well as a cat. Does he try to eat them? How do I prevent him from eating them, etc. And I have some less than helpful advice. There we go. He is less than interested at all in any of my plants. Huh. Yeah. Okay, Mom, I don't really care. I don't really mess with any of your plants. There has only ever been one plant in this entire house that he's cared about at all, that he's ever tried to eat, and that is the spider plant right here. Luckily, I looked it up and it's perfectly fine for cats to eat. As a matter of fact, some days when he doesn't get to go outside, he comes up here and literally uses this as like grass to make himself throw up. I don't know a lot about cats and why they do that or if that's okay, but that's what he does. He'll go outside, he eats grass, he throws up. It's like a hobby for him. I don't know why. Honestly, if he ever did eat my plants or showed any interest in eating my plants, I would be worried and try to take precautions, but him him nor the other 2 cats that live here have ever shown any interest in any of the plants except for this one. And as you can see, this one is quite plentiful. So they can have as much of it as they want and it's not bad for them. I just let them eat it. All right, well, those felt like the big questions that I needed to answer. Now I'm gonna answer some other questions that I've gotten on Instagram. If you don't follow me on Instagram, you should go follow me if you have one, because I ask for help over there a lot on video ideas or like suggestions or questions you have. And specifically for this video, I got the next questions I'm going to be answering from Instagram. So go follow me over there if you have Instagram. I think I'm gonna try to do more like rapid fire answers because a lot of these don't need super long explanations, but I want to try to answer as many of your questions as I can. Actually, this one might be a little bit longer of an answer. I spoke too soon. So I picked out this question because I thought it would be important for a lot of people to hear, and also for you to understand like my perspective on zero waste living or just sustainable living, low waste living, whatever you want to call it. I think this really defines like how some people see zero waste and how I see zero waste. So this person asked, how long did it take you to go fully zero waste? And there's so much like behind that I want to say, but 2 main points I want to make. First of all, I'm not zero waste. I don't think zero waste exists to an absolute zero. So to ask me how long did it take you to go zero waste, well, I don't know, like, cause I'm not there. Like, I don't know when you determine yourself to be zero waste, because there are always accidents and there are always things that happen. I mean, in my life, I don't know if my life is special or unique to a lot of other people on the internet who have zero waste lives, but like things are always coming up that end up me contributing to waste. I mean, for instance, you could call this like waste that has to do with my whole household, but obviously I'm part of my household. So whenever we moved to San Antonio, we had a lot of issues with this house. If you've been watching our vlog channel, or if you watched some of the videos we posted last month, you would hear about some of the issues we had. And a lot of the issues came from the people who lived here before us not taking care of this property, and specifically not having a water softener. Now, for a lot of places around the country, you don't need a water softener. A lot of people see water softeners as a big waste of money or like a privilege to have one because you want to have like soft water for your hair. But here in San Antonio, it's actually almost an essential, because the sediment in the water here will start ruining your appliances, your pipes, your spigots, like all sorts of things we had to fix when we moved in here because the people before us didn't have one, and there was so much mineral buildup around the house and the appliance like outlets, like the, what do you call it? I don't know, like spigots. Madison handled a lot of that, so I don't know, but I know that we had to fix a lot of things and I kind of helped in some of them. Anyway, I didn't know that when we moved to San Antonio, we were going to need a water softener, and that water softener takes salt. And guess what? I haven't been able to find without plastic. Salt. Like big giant bags of salt, and I don't know that I will ever be able to get that without plastic, because they're like huge, like I don't know how heavy they are, but they're giant bags, but they're plastic, right? And technically I do recycle them so they don't just go to waste, but in most people's eyes that's not zero waste, because thin plastics like that are very difficult to actually be recycled again and again. So how long did it take me to go zero waste? I don't know, because I'm not there, is the first thing I wanted to say. And the second thing I wanted to say, I was practicing zero waste before I knew that term existed, and maybe even long before the term was even in existence. So since I was in high school, I like I said, you would say like 2009. Oh my god, I was gonna say 2010, but it's literally 2009. I can't say 20 something, it's so long ago. But yeah, since my sophomore year in high school, I have been very aware of the environment. It's been my main passion in life, something I've worked towards and like really cared about for that long. And I sometimes forget that too, that I've been working on this lifestyle, a sustainable lifestyle, for that long. And so when people ask me like, how do I change my friends' minds? How do I change my family's minds? It's like I've been doing this for what? That makes it like a decade, and I still have friends and family, like pretty much all of my friends and family do not think like I do, and the efforts that they do make are like very minimal. So yeah, how long did it take me to go zero waste? I don't know, because I was looking to reduce my waste for as long as I can remember, since I was, you know, becoming an adult. It's been like basically my whole life, and I don't have it all figured out, and I don't think that anybody has it always all figured out unless you live on a very strict standard routine and you never change it at all. And that's not my life, which is why I really preach like doing as much as you can, but you don't have to be perfect to like make a difference. That's what I'm here for, and that's what I believe. So yeah, that's how long did it take me to go zero waste? 12 years so far. Okay, the rest of these I promise I'm gonna try to go through faster. What editing system do I use for my videos? I don't know why anybody would want my advice on editing because I'm not good at editing. I still use iMovie. I do have Final Cut Pro because one of my subscribers actually gave it to me, but I didn't take the time to learn how to use it yet. Maybe that's something I should achieve in the new year. Would I wanna live somewhere other than Texas, and why? I would wanna live anywhere other than Texas because my quality of life here is not great because it's so freaking hot and I hate the heat. Move me anywhere where the majority of the year it is not 90 plus. Thank you. How much waste do I actually make without considering my roommate and my partner? I don't know how to answer that because I don't have my own trash can, and everybody's trash kind of goes into the trash can that is the house trash can. I don't keep track of it. I am very conscious anytime I have to walk to a trash can and throw something away because I have guilt with that. But over time I've just learned like I can't, like there's nothing I can do about some of the things that I end up having to throw away because of how our society is set up. That's not my fault. That is the way like things are structured currently's fault, and all I can do is my best to not support those companies, to write to those companies to make a change and to do better next time. So I don't really have an answer to that question. Oh my god, so many of you guys want to know about bras, socks, underwear. I have two posts. I have one about lingerie, which is mostly like bras and underwear. I'll be adding to that probably in February because that is sexy lingerie month for February for Valentine's Day. Okay, yeah. Anyway, I'll be adding to my lingerie post now. I'm going to be trying some of those brands out that I haven't tried before, but I'll link that post below, my lingerie one, and I have a sock one. I got a lot of questions about that. I always get a lot of questions about that. Oh my god. Christina wants to know when I'm moving to Seattle. You're killing me. Like I just said, anywhere where it's not 90s most of the year would be great, but you have to talk to Madison. Like I said, compromise. What are some tips for someone who is flat broke but still wants to be as eco-friendly as possible? I always think that's really interesting because in my head, like the only thing you have to go zero waste is like a reusable water bottle and a coffee cup maybe, but I feel like most people already have those things. Those are things that you are like essential to life, right? That you would use every day, that you would need to swap a reusable for. Obviously, secondhand is a good solution to get most of the things you need as far as like reusables go. And other than that, I have one video on completely free zero waste swaps. I think it's 15 of them, and I'll link that video here. And I'm gonna make another one soon about, you know, like how to save money on a budget, that sort of thing. But I think there are a lot of resources out there. I don't think it takes a lot of money to live this lifestyle, specifically because up until like 2019, my ass was broke, y'all. I don't know if you knew, but like the first 2 years of me being on YouTube, I was making $30,000 a year, which was still taking money out for like retirement and taxes. So at the end of the day, I didn't bring home that much money. And during the first 2 years on YouTube, I was also paying off tens of thousands of dollars in student loan debt. I was living a sustainable lifestyle on very little money. I wasn't balling out or anything. I understand that I definitely have privilege and I definitely was more comfortable than a lot of people. I don't think you have to have a lot of money to live this lifestyle. I really, really don't. Someone said, is there anything you miss that is wasteful? Which again is very interesting. I think that hopefully I have done a good job communicating how I feel about zero waste and like how you have to be perfect versus how I don't think you do. And if there was something that I missed that was wasteful, I would just do it. Like I didn't give up ice cream, okay, you guys? I still be enjoying me some vegan Ben & Jerry's, but I don't do it on a regular basis, and that's not because it's wasteful, it's because it's bad for my health. But there's nothing particularly wasteful that brought me a lot of joy that I miss. But if there was, I would do it. Just like when people ask me, how do you be zero waste and like enjoy arts and crafts? Well, you just do it. If it's worth it to you, it's worth it. Does that make sense? I really think that maybe I take like a minimalism approach to zero waste that others don't. I think that there are plenty of things you can do to reduce your waste and that you can improve on before having to give up something that you really love. So that's my answer to that. Do you get a lot of criticism / hate for wanting to be eco-conscious by viewers? You know, maybe I can leave off on this and then answer some more questions on Instagram after I get off of here. But something that really bothers me, and I actually recorded a whole video about it before the year ended, and I was gonna post it and then I talked myself out of it, but it was essentially a video of how ridiculous I think it is that people try to discredit me on a daily basis for living a sustainable lifestyle and being plus size. It was literally a whole like 20 minutes of me cursing and screaming and crying at some points about how fucking irritating it is to be working on helping the planet for the last decade of my life, for it to be the driving force behind every day I wake up and the last thing I think about before I go to bed, for me to put all of my time and all of my energy into this, and then for people to be like, you're obviously wasteful because you're big, which means you eat a lot, which means you waste a lot of food. I read in that video that I recorded a lot of those comments, and I'll leave some on the screen, because last time I talked about this, the one and only time I've ever brought up my weight on my social media, I had people who commented on it and said they didn't believe that that was happening to me, that they don't understand like how that would impact me. That's the only type of hate comment that really pisses me off, is when people are so ignorant to think that my size should discredit all of the efforts that I make. And that really pisses me off, because it makes me feel like the zero waste movement, you're only allowed to look like one sort of person. And if you look around, it's typically a thin, Caucasian woman who runs like the zero waste movement. And while I am Caucasian and I am a woman, I am at least some form of representation for the zero waste movement, that you don't have to only be thin to, you know, live this lifestyle. I want more people to come to a sustainable lifestyle. Fuck if it's zero waste, I don't fucking care. I want more people to learn about sustainability and feel like it is for them, not like they don't fit in or like they don't see. I really think tangent. I really think that when people say that they want representation in government or representation in movies, they want to see people that look like them. I think it's a subconscious thing. I don't think it's something that people like look at everybody on the zero waste movement, and if they're like Madison, you know, a non-straight, non-white woman, and they look at all the white women who run the zero waste movement, essentially, have the biggest platforms, they don't look at them and go, oh, those people don't look like me, so I don't fit in. I think it's more of a subconscious thing where in your mind it doesn't seem like it's for you. You don't easily fit into that mold, and I don't want people to feel that way. And even though I can only be a difference to a finite group of people who are, you know, not thin, I'm happy to be here and be that representation. So fuck anybody from here on out who comments on my weight, who calls me fat, who discredits me for my size, and a double fuck you to any brands who overlook me because of my size, because I know for a fact that that happens to me all the time. And you know what? I'm doing just fine over here, and if any brand wants to pass on me for that reason, you can fuck off, because I don't want to work with you anyway, but also you're kind of shitty. That's how I feel about that. That was my shortened monologue from the 20-minute tirade I went on about it in my other video that I will spare you. Go ahead and leave all your little hate comments about how I have like this little fat right here, because you can fuck right off with that. Oh, and also any comments who complain about my cursing. I am a almost 27-year-old woman, and I don't believe that a word can be bad. So if you don't want to be here for that either, like, I'm kind of sorry, but also I'm not. That's just who I am. And on that note, my first video of 2020, thank you all so much for being here. I hope that we can go into the new year with positive thoughts, positive thinking, and also just like saying fuck off to all the haters and all the expectations to what you should live up to live a sustainable lifestyle. But thank you so much for watching, and remember, until next time, you cannot do all the good that the world needs, but the world needs all the good that you can do. Also, I have 2 other videos going up this week, hopefully. Oh God, I'm running behind on one of those. I just remembered. Okay, anyway, thank you. Bye.